when we talk about allyship and we talk about um, using your privilege honorably, that's what this is, right? There are some people in places and spaces that will not be detected because they're looking for people that look like you and I to be in the forefront. And so back to what your publisher said, this is what you could get. How can I use my privilege honorably to fight, to be part of the resistance?
Exactly. I think that people might, when they hear the word resistance, I think a lot of people think, I just went to pick my mom up from the airport. And when we were driving, we saw, I guess they're doing like a mini No Kings type of protest
Yeah.
close to where I live. And, if you drive past an overpass or a bridge, there are a group of people, and I really respect them because I remember a couple weeks ago when we were getting a cold front in the Northeast, these people were still out when it was the wind chill was below zero. These people were out and they have no ice signs and all of that. And I think when people think resistance, they think of that. And they're like, well, maybe you are somebody who's physically disabled, so you don't have the ability to actually go out in the cold, hold up signs. Resistance doesn't have to be engaging in protests. And it doesn't have to be what we envision. There are so many different ways. And I'm not the first person to say this. I've heard so many people say each of us have a different role to play in the resistance. And for me, I love to write. So I use writing as a form of resistance. For somebody else, it could be, I really love to bake goods. So I'm going to bake goods for these protesters. I saw in Minnesota that there was these Somali aunties that were like making tea to keep people warm in Minnesota who were out there protesting. And, they had the minivans, and they came and they had these like the Somali teas, and they were giving it to people to keep them warm. I've read about shop owners in the Minneapolis area who are allowing people to come into their shop just to stay warm. Those are very sort of like when we think of resistance, we don't think about those things, but those are really big, powerful ways to resist. I used to do this diversity dinner dialogue event in New York City, and the venue where I used to have the event, they actually always gave me a discount because the manager was like, "Oh, I love your mission." Right. So he would give me that's like a micro way to, using the resources that you have to resist in micro and saying, I don't have the power to give this to you for free, but I love your mission. And you're bringing people who are passionate about equity and justice together. And so because of that, I'm going to offer you a discount, right? That's something so small, but it's like no act of resistance to me is too small. Each of us can resist in micro and macro ways. And I hope that folks who read this book, that's one of the lessons that they pull out of this book.
I love that. I mean, this show is part of the resistance, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I went back and forth on, do I change the name? Do I get rid of it? And I was just like, no, these are conversations that we need to continue to have. The work is going to continue to move forward. I can platform people that are doing great things, writing books, whatever it is, and we amplify the conversation. And so that's just my way, one piece of the way, right, of being a part of the resistance. And so many people just got rid of DEI. And I mean, my producer Oren and I, talk about it all the time. We went back and forth for like weeks. Okay, maybe we just change it to After 5 with Sasha. The work is the work. DEI is going to be there.
I'm so glad that you decided to keep the name, because I feel like I know all of the opposition went on YouTube and went on all these platforms and found anyone with DEI or diversity in their name and tried to attack them. And that's their way to try to resist, is to troll us into submission and to try to get us to cower and to capitulate to what they want. But I'm so glad that you said, no, we're going to keep the name and we're going to keep doing, and the show literally must go on.
Right. I mean, that's what's, I think, important. But, I love that you pulled all of this together, because it is a guide, right? It's like, I cannot wait to totally really dive into it, because I've been kind of glancing. It was so funny you mentioned chapter 7, because that's where my hand was at chapter 7. But I think it's one of those things, like I often hear, okay, I know, I understand, but tell me what to do.
Yeah.
It's here. And you don't have to do all of it. Pick and choose. And what I would challenge people to do is pick what feels comfortable for where you are right now, and then challenge yourself to do something that's a little bit uncomfortable. Just gradually, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how you start to build the tough skin. That's how you also start to understand, if you get pushed back, how to respond.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think what I would love for people to do, like the way maybe people could read this, is looking through the table of contents and looking through, and I said chapter 7, my mind. Chapter 5 is resistance behind the scenes. Chapter 7 is self-determination as resistance. So I want to correct myself. But I would suggest people look through the table of contents and see, if I were thinking about resistance and the ways that I could resist both in the workplace and outside, what resonates most with me, right? And somebody who is a speaker might say, oh, your chapter on storytelling as resistance, that is something that's powerful. Or if I'm a writer, maybe that chapter would resonate most. If I'm somebody who's introverted, maybe I work remotely, maybe I don't want to quote unquote rock the boat, but I still want to resist in my own ways, I would go to chapter 5 and see, okay, behind the scenes resistance, and reading about those stories, right? If I'm somebody who is like, one of the chapters that I love, because I did this, but exiting as resistance, right? And some people might read this and say, this environment, this workplace that I'm in, the best and most powerful thing that I can do to actually create changes is to leave this environment, right? And so you did that as well. So it's like, sometimes staying and trying to change the environment causes us more harm than just leaving. And sometimes just our exit can be the catalyst to so many shifts. I hope that at the university that I was teaching at, when I left a 5-page letter, like Aaliyah, 5-page letter I wrote about all of the things that were wrong with the university and how I felt like as a Black woman, I was not included. I was pushed out. And I was like, I hope whatever new DEI person they read this letter line by line, because I laid out, this is what was done to me, and this is what you can do to fix these issues, right? And so I think that there's something for everyone in here. Some things might resonate with people more than others. I recognize that there is also a lot of privilege in being able to exit an environment. Some people may be the sole provider in their family, and leaving just is not an option right now. So that might not be a strategy that will resonate or that's feasible for you, but there could be something else. Maybe you can document as a form of resistance, right? We see the journalists who've been getting arrested, who are documenting the protests that are happening in Minneapolis and across the country, that are documenting the harm that is coming from state sanctioned violence and all of that. So I think that there's ways that each of us can resist. To me, one of the most powerful stories that I briefly mentioned is I think she was 18 at the time, the young Black woman named Darnella Frazier, who is the Black girl at the time who recorded the 9-minute video of George Floyd being murdered, right? And she didn't know that video would change the world. And she just took out her phone and started recording the harm, documenting the harm that she and others were witnessing. And look how impactful that video was, right? And so I think that is, to me, such a powerful story that I think about a lot. I think about Emmett Till's mom, who decided that she wanted to have an open casket funeral for her son, who was brutally beaten, murdered, mutilated. So his face was so unrecognizable that when his great uncle was not able to identify him and was not able to tell that it was him. So she wanted to showcase the brutality of white culture and what these monsters did to her son. And Jet Magazine, a photographer for Jet Magazine, took a photo, and some historians say that that was one of the biggest catalysts to the start of the civil rights movement, right?
Yep.
Seeing the brutality right there front and center. And so there are many ways that each of us can embody these, and some may resonate more than others, but I think that there's something in the book for everyone, and some strategies that will really, really resonate with the readers.
I love it. Like talking even about the exit strategy. And I've shared this on the show, and I've even had my coach on here. And that the one powerful question she asked is, where do you have the most impact, inside or outside of the organization? And I'm like, this organization is killing me. Mm-hmm. Like physically, mentally killing me. And I can have no impact on anything if I'm dead. Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. that started the process. Yeah. But the other piece to what you said, and I think it's so important, is part of your exit strategy is, how can I utilize the resources at this place to help me get to my next? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that was part of the resistance. Mm-hmm. For me was, I can't just up and leave. Mm-hmm. There needs to be a little bit of runway. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, how can I utilize the resources that are available to me to get me to my next? Mm-hmm. So I think that is, excuse me, so critical.
I imagine someone like who wants to leave their organization, who recognizes it's causing them physical harm in so many ways. And they're like, you know what, I can't leave right now, but I'm going to be part of this protest. And I'm going to use up all my company's resources to print out flyers and to print out materials, brochure, all kinds of stuff that we can use as we're protesting. I'm going to use my company's resources to help me in the resistance. And so that is such a micro way to resist, but it's still, to me, a way that you're challenging the dominant power structure. So I think
I got a coaching certification.
Yes. Like,
y'all pay for that. Thanks.
Exactly. So that's perfect. It's like, if you're going to do it on their dime. So I do think that it doesn't have to be, when we hear that word resistance or resist, we think of like these huge grand actions, but it doesn't even have to be anything that sort of that big. There's so many micro ways that we resist, and we probably don't even realize it in our lives.
And before we kind of close out, there was one piece of this that I thought was so important, which was rest as resistance. Mm-hmm. And I think the perfect example of that right now, the 92%. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, to watch and witness Black women collectively rest is eye-opening for so many. And a lot of people are struggling, because it's like, I was raised to be on the front line. Mm-hmm. But to watch a collective movement of, I'm a rest, mm-hmm. has been powerful. Mm-hmm. And I think because that decision was made as a collective, we're now seeing what's happening in Minneapolis in a different light. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, those that were unalived mm-hmm. did not look like us. Mm-hmm. And so therefore there was a certain different level of care, mm-hmm. different level of scrutiny. Mm-hmm. And people are rethinking mm-hmm. what they've been taught for mm-hmm. so long. Mm-hmm. So that in itself has been a resistance. Mm-hmm. And that in itself shifts who's resisting when and where. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right? I think that's been powerful for me to sit back and watch.
Yeah. And I'm glad that so many of us are prioritizing our rest, because I think one of the tactics that the opposition uses to keep us overwhelmed is, like, I forget which person said, you have to flood the zone. Yeah. And it's intentional that exactly, that they're putting out so much information that is like, do I focus on the files or this or that? Like, there's so much stuff to focus on. And when our nervous systems are dysregulated, we are just overwhelmed or stressed. When you're more stressed, you're more likely to get sick. And when you get sick, we see what's happening with the healthcare system in the US. And it's just like all of the systems are breaking down, and the systems aren't in place to support us and keep us healthy and whole. And so the fact that so many Black women specifically, because we've been conditioned to work, we've been conditioned to push through, we've been conditioned to just go, go, go. And the fact that so many of us are saying we are going to stop and we are going to pause, I think it's just really, really powerful. And we have a really powerful model of rest, which I mentioned in the book, and many examples of like how these people prioritize rest and how we can start to do the same.
Yeah, I saw Dr. Sam in there, so I'm like,
Yes.
oh, okay. I might have to bring her on to
she was
talk
in there as
about
well.
that.
Yes.
So, Janice, how could people connect with you? How can they get the book? Like, where should they go?
Yeah, so I am mostly on LinkedIn, and now I resurrected my YouTube channel. I've had a YouTube channel since 2011, and I wasn't really posting on it, but I resurrected it. So I'm on YouTube if you search my name, and I'm on LinkedIn the most. And you can get this book wherever books are sold. I try not to promote Amazon because Amazon is a corrupt institution, but as an author, it's really, really important if you do use Amazon that you buy it through there, because Amazon still is the number one place where people buy books. If you're not a supporter of Amazon, anywhere where you get your books, so Barnes and Noble or bookshop.org is a great resource as well. I'm not going to promote Walmart or Target, but if you get your books from there, you can also get the book there. So anywhere where you get your books is where you can find Rise and Resist.
Wonderful. Like I said, I am so excited for you and this book. I mean, this is the perfect time for this. We need to do more resisting. We need to encourage others to do more resisting.
Yes. And there's a powerful model for resistance. So we shouldn't feel like, people are like, this is so unprecedented. There are people who live through more horrific circumstances and they found a way to push through and to resist. And I think we need to remember that and read their stories and, study what they did and just use them as a model for our resistance.
Absolutely. Use what you have access to.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. I am so honored and proud to know you and to be in your orbit. And, again, I am excited to dive into this. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful that a space like this exists. Thank you for you and Oren deciding to keep this going, because it's important and it's necessary. And this platform is just valuable. So I appreciate you sharing the space with me and bringing me back on the show.
Thank you. And for everyone that is watching and tuning in, please, please, please go get the book. Learn more about other acts of resistance, how you can support resistance in this space right now. Even if it's a micro resistance, all the micros add up to a macro. And so I hope that you are able to walk away with a little bit of encouragement, with a little bit of hope, and a lot of support. And until next time, have a good one. DEI After 5 is produced by the Leon Thomas Group. For more information, go to theleonthomasgroup.com.